Hello? Hello, anybody in?
Good morning, Mr. Zhang.
Hello, yeah.
Hi. This is from the admin of the Incubator 9. Just a quick question before we start the session. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. So as you can see on the screen now, it shows admin 2. Later on, when the session starts, this will change to the timer instead. My question is, you don't have pass, so the whole session will run through. So I will set the timer at 2 hours.
Yeah.
Which you can see from there. Another thing is that we would like to have a group photo before you start the session.
So before the start session, have a group photo here. Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Hi, Ira. Good morning. Yeah, see you now. Good morning. So you are in your university now?
No, I am 2 hours from my university by plane.
Okay, also I can't remember the name of that, but I just know it's very close to Bali Island, right?
Yeah, close to Bali. Next to Bali Island. Have you been to Indonesia?
Yeah, I have been in Bali.
Oh, nice. Too many tourists.
No, to tourist. Yes.
So from the beginning, we are already entering the breakout room.
Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's start our conference. Now, welcome to the UN Ocean Decade Kickoff Conference for the West Pacific and its adjacent area. I'm Zhu Zhang, also the controversial for this sessions. I come from the first center of Oceanographic Ministry of Natural Resources China. Here is Incubator 9 solutions to the conflicts of ocean uses, accelerate marine space planning in West Pacific and its adjacent area. So first of all, welcome all of you join us. Now, before our conference, I propose all of you open your camera and we take a group photo. Okay, please.
Seems most of people still look sleepy, huh?
Even
Hey, Wanagat.
Nice days.
Hey.
Get up. Too early.
You have too many night lives now.
Okay,
Few
please
moments,
open your camera.
I think some
Ladies
people
and gentlemen.
turn on their camera. Okay, everybody ready? 1, 2. Thank you very much.
Okay now, okay. So in order to make it smoothly, please turn off your camera. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. Sorry, I lost the connection just now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's start our conference. Marine spatial planning is a multi-sectoral practice process and methodology for planning and management of ocean and coastal zones. MSP has repeatedly become a commonly accepted approach to address conflicts among users and marine space. To accelerate its implementation worldwide, also UNESCO and the European Commission's Director General for Marine Affairs and Fishery jointly adopted a MSP roadmap and launched a 3-year project called MSP Global Initiative, which produced the MSP Global International Guide on marine spatial planning to assist the governments, partners, and practitioners in their MSP process. Now, this incubator will guide the MSP practitioners from countries in the region, brief on the MSP global movement and its international guide, say ideas, and the perspective, and eventually come up with an action plan for further advanced MSP process in this region. So the brief agenda for our incubator is as follows. First is introduction for this incubator, and then I expect from also UNESCO will introduce MSP Global 2030 and the international guide. And then some experts from the countries in this region will introduce MSP initiative in every countries. And the last part is discussing on co-designing a roadmap on MSP in WESTPAC and its adjacent area. Now, first of all, I will this is our speakers today this morning, and of course we welcome all of you join us in our panel discussion. Now, first of all, I will give a presentation of the science we need for marine spatial planning in WESTPAC and its adjacent areas in the background of UN Ocean Decade. Now, before the presentation, I will introduce myself. I'm the Vice Director of the Center for Coastal Science and Marine Spatial Planning from the first Institute of Oceanography, Ministry of Nature Research, China. And my research interest includes coastal road management with focus on integrated assessment, marine spatial planning, island protection, and management. And I have did a lot of work to promote MSP theory and application research both in national and international jobs in the East and the Southeast Asian area in the last decade, including national, provincial, and local level MSP projects in China and international level MSP cooperation with Thailand, Korea, and some other countries. And also I'm a member of the expert group for MSP Global 2030 and MSP consulting for Corpus UNEP. So this is my presentation. I want to thought about how to accelerate MSP in WESTPAC and its adjacent area in the background of UN Ocean Decade. My presentation has 4 parts. First is what's MSP. Now, for different countries and different organizations, they have different definition to this tool. In 2009, I will say give a definition for MSP. This thought it's a public process to analyze and allocating the spatial and temporal distribution of human activities to achieve ecological, economic, and social objectives that are usually specified through a political process. Last month, I would say UNESCO published a new guide, international guide for MSP. And in this guide, we also think MSP is a comprehensive and statistic process to analyze and audit the use of sea areas to minimize conflicts between human activities and maximize benefits. We are ensuring the resilience of marine ecosystem. So the different countries or different organizations also have different definition for this tool, for this consent. But the aim or the goals for MSP is similar, is to used for coordinate the conflicts. Here the conflicts usually have 2 kinds of conflict. First is a conflict among human users, and the second kind of conflict are the conflicts between human users and the marine environment. So that what we think science support MSP as a tool, or is science to transform to as a tool for coordinate the conflicts. So how science support MSP? I do think because here lots of experience come here have the experience in MSP work. But here I want to give you 2 stories we did in last few years. The first story is come from China, from Qinzhou, in Guangxi Zhuang autonomous region. It's Qinzhou was an undeveloped coastal city. However, this situation changed as China's central government began current the China-Asian free trade area beginning in 2001 and published the Big Gulf Area Development Master Plan in 2008. There is a period of accepted development. for the facility that tourism and have been open in this state from 2008 to 2015. Here is expected to continue fiscal and both. Such as pollution, erosion, overfishing, and also conflicts between users. Whatever, the most important conflicts here is between users and environment. Now, from this map, we can say Qingzhou Interior forms an important unit of Qingzhou marine ecosystem. The narrow channel connecting the inner Maui Bay to the outer Qingzhou Bay seriously limits water exchange with the inner bay, resulting in seriously sedimentation and water pollution problems that affect both agriculture, shipping, and of course, environment quality and ecosystem service. If new construction here in this area usually will affect this bay seriously. How to coordinate that? This is a problem. Let's also need to use science to support this work. So in order to do this work, we collect kinds of data and made some survey. Then we analyze the marine protection and development status of the region and study hydrodynamic environment, the formation mechanism of natural channel, water exchange data, and the sedimentary character of Qingzhou Bay. Also analysis of Maui Bay water exchange to understand the capacity of the bay in different scenarios. Then based on the formal analysis, we lay out the different routes. And after expect argument, stakeholder hearing, government deliberation, and public outreach develop consensus on the proposed master plan. This is what we did in Qingzhou, and it's about 10 years ago, the story of what we did. And the second is from Thailand. It's a work we did with our Thai friends in Khao Lan. Khao Lan Island is the largest island outside of Pattaya City and has seen a repeated increase tourism industry by nature of its environment. On the other hand, Khao Lan has suffered from pollution, degradation of coral reef habitat, and increased coastal areas, and such as due to its explosion growth. But based on the situation in Khao Lan, we set a science-based planning process. It has 4 steps. First is to know the issues in this area, and then survey and data collection. Based on the data, we analyze some kind of issues to support the final decision making. Here, the main work we did is to know the most complex first. Usually, at the tourism island, the most usually at the tourism island, the most important issues is environment, enterprise, and ecosystem. So how to make the environment, how to make the enterprise suitable, how to make the ecosystem could be sustainable development as we should concern about. Based on this, we set 3 analyses for environment. We study the layout of pollution diffuse. For the ecosystem, we analyze the cost for island spatial planning based on the ecosystem assessment. And for the enterprise of the tourism industry, we studied the island tourism model and the spatial distribution based on the analysis of tourist behavior. This is the detailed work we did. We set up a hydrodynamic model to know which kind of cruising diffusion scenario will behave the minimal efficacy. Also, we made questionnaire investigation to know which kind of activities could meet the needs most. Now, for the ecosystem assessment, we use invest software to assess the habitat quality used for trade-off. Based on the form analysis, stakeholder meetings have been held many rounds to trade off the different spatial plan, and this plan also have been approved by local government as a rule for the coastal management. Now, these are two work we did, or two stories we think experienced for in different period. One is 10 years ago, and another one I think is 3 years ago. Now, from this two work, we do think MSP by nature is a science-based process, but where to start is always perplexing because there is large knowledge and data gap needed to be filled, especially in developing countries where there are no exciting MSP mechanisms. Therefore, a particular way is to firstly target the parameter issues needed to be addressed and solved through MSP, such as insecurity. To achieve management goals, they prepare the best science and skill to serve an MSP. Ultimately, build MSP on the basis of science. The part 3 is a new requirement for MSP in the background of UN Oceanographic. Now, this map is a code from the work plan of UN Oceanographic. We can see here coastal road management, MSP, and blue economy. Agriculture management and actual society application for ocean we want. And then we need to do science breakthroughs. What's for that? That's a question. Whatever, MSP is a tool of society application. Aiming to UN 2030 agenda, how to achieve it is the 2030 agenda can only be achieved by transforming global aspiration to local realities. So MSP can become a vehicle contribution to this aim and involving different spatial scale of intervention. So that's also what we should to carry out it and to think about it. As a content of MSP, we also think MSP is an enabler of economy. That's where what kind of requirement does this put forward for marine spatial planning? Anyway, new issues we are facing, such as climate change, is affecting the environment and maritime activity. Thus, MSP also needs to incorporate climate change in its analysis and proposals, and how it may affect the different steps of planning. Last but not least, transboundary MSP. The connection and mobility character of ocean means coastal and marine ecosystem dynamics transiting adaptive boundary. We should consider these issues when we make a plan. So this is what we should do to think about the science support MSP and how to fit for WESTPAC and aging center areas. Last month, a new international guide on MSP has been published by UNESCO and gave lots of cases and experience. But how to consider the lack of MS technical data and knowledge MSP capacity and merchant and integrated and limited budget. This also result we researched for the East Asian countries did in last year. With this affects often hinder the MSP process in developing countries. And since MSP can only be successfully if it means defining need and propose results effectively to target it and start from resolving principle and constituent issues. So string regional cooperation and how to accelerate is our work, and it's also what we need to think about for this incubator. Okay, stop here. Thank you. And our agenda, the next speaker is Michelle. Michelle is a consultant on marine spatial planning in marine policy and regional coordination sections. I was UNESCO. Now she had been working on this topic since 2017 as a consultant, as well as a researcher for different MSP initiatives, such as MSP Global, MSP Sweden, and some others. We're engaging with MSP actors. She is also dedicated to capacity building on MSP and blue economy. So the next presentation from Michelle.
Joey, no voice.
Okay, sorry.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me for this kickoff conference of the UN Ocean Decade. And my name is Michelle Quesada. I'm a consultant on marine spatial planning at IOC UNESCO, and I will present an introduction of the MSP roadmap and the new MSP Global International Guide on Marine Spatial Planning. So MSP for IOC is a public process of analyzing and allocating spatial and temporal distribution of human activities to achieve the three kinds of objectives, sustainable objectives, ecological, economic, and social, that are usually specified through a political process. So MSP is a multisectoral and participatory process. And during this process, an MSP plan is developed. It's the instrument to implement what was decided during this process. In 2017, IOC UNESCO and the European Commission's Directorate General for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries jointly adopt a roadmap to accelerate MSP process worldwide. This roadmap has 5 priority actions. And to implement these actions, the project MSP Global was designed and the International MSP Forum was established. But the experience of IOC UNESCO with MSP goes before 2017. So it started more than 15 years ago. And so IOC has been developed different guidelines on MSP, but also organized the different capacity building activities. And this year, actually last month, we published a new international guide on MSP, which the guide that I will present today. So the first chapter of this guide, it's about the process of developing it and the purpose of the guide. That is basically to showcase, inspire examples of MSP for users to consider and reflect upon. And so the users will decide what to follow according to their own context. And how was this guide written? So IOC published an open call inviting MSP experts from all the regions of the world to apply to contribute to this guide. Then 70 people applied, and some were selected to compose the international expert group that was focused on developing the guide itself, and others were part of the thematic expert group. So the thematic experts, they developed these 6 policy briefs that you have here on the bottom of the screen. And some of the experts, they also contributed and reviewed the guide. It's important to mention here that the content of these policy briefs were used as reference for the guide, as well as indirect contributions from all stakeholders involved in the activities of the MSP Roadmap, MSP Global, and MSP Forum. The chapter 2 is about MSP and ocean governance basics. So it's about concepts related to MSP. So here there is an explanation about international policies such as UNCLOS, the Law of the Sea, the importance of regional bodies for transboundary marine spatial planning. That means that the countries that share the same sea basin should develop coherent MSP plans across borders, because there are issues and there are resources that are divided that are shared by the different countries of sea basin. We also talk about the concepts such as sustainable blue economy and how MSP is related not only to the SDG 14, life below water, but all the other SDGs of the 2030 agenda. Then from chapter 3 to 8, we explain the different phases of the MSP process. We're starting with setting the scene, the context where the MSP process will be established. And then after that, discussing how we design the planning process. How do we assess and how do we make assessments for planning? How we develop the plan, how we implement the plan, how we monitor, evaluate, and adapt the MSP plan. So the chapter 3 about how to set the scene discuss that usually the countries, when they want to start an MSP process, they establish an MSP working group with members from different governmental institutions. Sometimes also other kind of stakeholders are part of this working group, as well as planning experts. And the role of this initial group is to identify existing legal and institutional frameworks, start mapping stakeholders and what are their planning needs, and identifying budget and funding for developing MSP. So as I mentioned before, MSP wants to achieve the 3 kind of objectives: ecological, economic, and social. But MSP usually starts based on key drivers, and this changes from country to country. So some countries, for example, they start MSP because they have a very small maritime area and they need to start to organize what's going on. Other countries start because they want to promote a specific sector, for example, offshore renewable energy. Other countries start MSP because they want to improve the conservation of a specific ecosystems. So the key drivers of MSP, they really change from country to country. The chapter 4, it's about designing the planning process. So it talks about what are the skills of the planning team that will develop the guide. So the working group defined the beginning of the process is not necessarily the planning team that will really develop the plan. It's very common that the working group, the MSP working group assists. It's like a committee that advises the planning team, but you have a planning team with specific skills developing the plan. Then we also discuss what are the key steps of a work plan that needs to include the development of strategies for communication, strategies for public participation, strategy for compiling and managing spatial data. It's also during this phase that the planning boundaries are defined, MSP principles are identified, and the stakeholders start to develop the initial vision they want to achieve with their plan, and the objectives, the specific objectives they want for the planning area. So the guide includes a checklist for engaging stakeholders, examples of MSP principles from the Baltic Sea, from Canada, but also how the principles are divided into three kind of principles. So those about how the process needs to be conducted in relation to stakeholders, how the plan needs to be developed, what the plan needs to deliver. And when talking about specific objectives, it's very common in public policy documents to read something about SMART objectives: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. But in this guide, it was included 2 additional letters, that is inclusive and equitable. So highlighting that MSP needs to be aligned with inclusive and equitable process to achieve objectives for the whole society that benefit the whole society. Then chapter 5, it's about assessments for planning. So it describes, for example, the type of spatial data that is relevant to make a diagnosis of the current conditions, but also what kind of data we need to look for when we want to understand what are the potential future of the planning area for each maritime use. It also talks about the development of alternative scenarios and development of a public information system to compile, to organize all the data, the spatial data necessarily to develop the plan. So here we have examples from the guide about maps representing existing conditions, but also analysis to take into account the 3 dimensions of the marine environment. About future conditions, there is an example of mapping suitable areas for spatial development of different sectors. This map, for example, it's about offshore aquaculture. And then the guide discusses that to develop alternative scenarios, it means that you would have different visions for the planning area and different key drivers. And these scenarios, they are usually developed together with the stakeholders, and then they are also discussed with the stakeholders to analyze the pros and cons of each scenario. And here, for example, we have a list of potential questions to analyze the alternative scenarios. Chapter 6 is about the plan itself, the document, which usually includes the agreed vision for the planning area, the specific objectives also agreed, the spatial allocation of uses, which means the different zones, the different areas for each maritime use, as well as non-spatial management actions. For example, those related to pollution, to avoid pollution from different maritime sectors. That is not necessarily a spatial measure, but it's something also important to be considered in a marine spatial plan. Then when we have this draft plan, it's very important that this goes to a public consultation, not only with different stakeholders, but with the society in general. And ideally, this plan should also go for consultation with the neighboring countries, because as I said before, we have different countries sharing the same sea basin, and it's important that the MSP plans, they are coherent across the borders. Chapter 7 is about enabling implementation of the plan. So here it's discussed the need of having a regulation related to the implementation of the plan. So how the licensing process will be conducted and aligned with what was decided in the plan. They need to establish a regular dialogue with stakeholders to follow up and support the implementation of the plan. They need for capacity development for competent authorities and stakeholders on the implementation of the plan. The need of compliance of sectoral authorities, regulatory bodies, and stakeholders, and the enforcement of the MSP plan by the government. On the right side, you have the MSP plan of Wales, for example, and they have not only the planning document, but also an implementation guidance to support the implementation phase of the plan. Then finally, chapter 8 is about monitoring, evaluation, and adaptation. And it divides in 4 parts, which means that we should monitor and evaluate not only the plan, but the process as well. So this is the first part, to monitor and evaluate the process, how it was conducted, included how were the stakeholders engaged. Then the evaluation of the draft plan and its relevance, its potential consequences. Then after having a plan, an agreed plan, it's important to monitor the implementation of the plan. So make regular and mid-term evaluations. And finally, it's necessary to monitor, to evaluate if the expected outcomes of the plan were achieved or not, and why. So the guide includes indicators, checklists for reviewing and revision, among other informations about monitoring, evaluation, and adaptation. So I would like to thank you all for your attention, and to inform that the guide is available on the website of the MSP Global Initiative, that is mspglobal2030.org. The guide is now available in English, but will be soon available in Spanish, French, and Arabic. And well, that's it from my side. I wish you all a very nice event. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And he gave us our introduction about the new guideline of Earth spatial planning. And the next speaker is from Professor Wanakat. And here I introduce Professor Wanakat.
Yes.
So Professor Wanakea,
Yes.
you can say your presentation and
I
Professor Wanakea from the Sungkai University of Thailand.
no, Sakanan.
So sorry. Professor Sakana. Professor Sakana is a lecturer at the Faculty of Science Finance of Sungkai University. He is the director of Marine Science Learning Center and the head of Coral Reef and Bonage Research Unit. During the last 25 years, his experience has been mostly on many aspects of marine environment, from ecology to management, including marine environment impact assessment, coral reef, seagrass, and mangrove management, and marine national park management. So please, Professor Sakana.
Good morning. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have a 10-minute talk. I would like to introduce about the Marine Spatial Planning Initiative in Thailand. So just a quick presentation. Hang on. I don't know what happened. Sorry. Okay. So actually, in terms of spatial planning, actually, we have already familiar with the land use planning, like we plan into the agriculture area, urban area, industrial area, or conservation area. But most of the spatial planning in Thailand are already on land. But for the marine area, we never have a specific marine spatial planning in terms of the integrated of all activity in the marine environment, in the marine area. In about 2009, and after the IOC published the book of the marine spatial planning by Dr. Chan Error. So we start to learn about the marine spatial planning from that time, sponsored by the COPSI SIDA project. So we initiate the marine spatial planning by organize a training course on marine spatial planning in 2013. And at that time, we start to introduce the concept of the marine spatial planning in Thailand. And the concept of the marine spatial planning, actually, it has already been applied in terms of the national park management, especially in marine national park. We have a zoning plan in marine national park in Thailand. But for the Koh Tao Island is not a national park, so we can see many kinds of activity around the island, from tourism, from subsistence, the fishery, and other activity around this island. So we try to implement the concept of the marine spatial planning for this Koh Tao Island. The Koh Tao is a small island. It's just only 21 square kilometers, but there are like 400,000 visitors per year, and among of them about 200,000 divers per year. And actually, it's increased, double increase in recent years, in like 400,000 divers per year in 2019. So the concept of the Koh Tao planning, actually in the past, the government set up the policy, plan, and regulation to manage the marine and coastal resources. Government agency provides staff, provides tools and budgets, but normally it's not enough to manage the marine and coastal resources. So the Koh Tao Island, we use the concept of the participatory management framework. The people of the Koh Tao Island involved in the beginning of the policy planning and set up the regulation, and they can be a staff to look after the marine and coastal resources. And even because we have a high income from the tourism business, the community, the municipality can provide the tool and budget, and we have a group of the people that sets up the Safe Koh Tao conservation group. So we work together with the government agency and the local community to set up the plan. And we have a spatial planning, marine spatial planning around the Koh Tao Island. We have particularly like a fish sanctuary area, scuba diving area, coral reef conservation, coral reef protection zone, and even the no-boat zone. in around the Koh Tao Island. So this is the concept of the marine spatial planning for one particular island that is famous for tourism. And also we have a negotiate between tourism and the local fishermen for the spatial planning. It's about 5 years ago that we have a initiation program with the China, with the first Institute of Oceanography. And Dr. Shiwei had already presented some of the outcome of the spatial planning of the Golan, Pattaya. In this project, we use the scientific knowledge. We apply the scientific base to have a survey on the existing condition and the oceanographic data of the island. We have a questionnaire workshop together with the local administrative organization and have a stakeholder meeting to get the state of the marine coastal resources and the current utilization of the island and the marine area. So we have a planning, spatial planning for this island as well. Then we try to move to another island that is more complicated than the Golan Island. Golan and Koh Tao Island is a primary uses for the tourism, especially for diving and marine tourism. But another island is more complicated. It is the Koh Sichang Island. The Sichang Island has a lot of use around the island, especially the marine transportation. This is the major marine port in Thailand, but the Sichang Island is also a location for local fishermen and the tourism for the local community. So this is more challenge to set up the spatial planning for this island, because when we starting with the collection of the information on the legal boundary, we found lots of government agency with a different law and regulation, such as the marine transportation. They have the boundary anchoring area, marine transportation route, and also we have a conservation area in this area, the fishery law as well. So there are lots of law and regulation in the same area. So in the future, we need the participation and negotiation between the utilization of the many stakeholders. So this is still sharing and still a beginning phase of the process of the marine spatial planning, with a small island that is more complicated than the other island. And now the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources has started some more complicated work in the Phang Bay. In Phang Bay, there are many activities in Phang Bay. There are many national park, marine national park, coastal tourism, and coastal development for tourism development. And it's composed of 3 provinces: Phuket, Phang Nga, and Krabi province. So it's more complicated in the Phang Bay, but now we start to collect some more information, especially the current utilization and the status of the marine and coastal resources of the Phang Bay. It just started last year, I think, and now there are some other team are working on the collect the information on the socio-economic aspect, try to evaluate the value of the natural resources in terms of the environmental account of the marine and coastal resources of the Phang Bay. So this is some start of the work. For the utilization of the Phang Bay, we use the uses conflict and compatibility to analyze the conflict or compatible between uses of different sections, different stakeholders in Phang Bay. So we found some activity have a conflict in red color. That we have used this metric to identify the conflict between the uses in the Phang Bay. So it's quite more complicated than other island, even more complicated. So this is some kind of the initiation project for the marine spatial planning in Thailand. However, in the future, we need some more some more collaboration between agencies, because in the previous work, we normally focus on the marine and coastal resources conservation and focus on the tourism and even the fishermen, local fishermen. But the uses of the marine area in Thailand has more complicated than that. We have many mining area, fishery, marine transportation, marine culture, and even the petroleum concession area. And we need the future development of the energy from the marine energy, other options for the marine energy, and also some proposal of marine defenses. So we need the more national marine policies on the marine spatial planning to set up the vision and the goal. And because we need a lot of integration between government agency, we need the negotiation and participation of many stakeholders in the marine area of the Thailand. So that is the challenge, the new challenge for Thailand, that it's not only from the Department of Marine Coastal or the Ministry of the Natural Resources and Environment, but we need the collaboration between many organization agencies in Thailand to set up the marine spatial planning. So these some recommendation for the key success factor to promote the marine spatial planning in order to promote the blue economy for the Thailand and actually not for Thailand only, but for the region, because we need to boost the economy in every country, and the blue economy is a new concept. And I think the marine spatial planning is the key to the success of the blue economy. So if we look at the model by the Grey Mark in 1992, it is a multi-level governance. So in the past, we used the centralization concept that the government agency sets up everything. But now we have to talk about what is the world talking about, like the SDG, the protected area, the biodiversity conservation, the ecosystem-based fishery management, marine spatial planning, climate change, pollution, and blue economy. And also the power of the management of the marine and coastal resources will be the transfer, the power of management will be transferred to the local communities, even from at the provincial level or at the local administrative organization. So we need the participatory management of the government agency and the communities. For the knowledge management, we still need more research and monitoring to identify the state of marine and coastal resources, the current utilization, the conflict, the current threat and the future threat of the marine area, and also the future needs. And we need some new techniques like ecosystem service variation that we try to say what we get from the conservation of the marine and coastal resources. So we need some more work in terms of scientists, in terms of science and even the social side to work together. We need a platform and public education for policymakers to sit down and talk together, and also for the capacity building at the local community. We need the training of the trainer and the training for the officer, for the local leader, for the NGO, and even for the operators to work together. This is some kinds of the training course that we need for the capacity building to the local management agencies. This is also my last slide. I'd like to strengthening the concept of the marine spatial planning, because it relied on the decision. What is the best decision to select what this area should be applied, should be allocated for any kind of activity. So in terms of the ecosystem, we need more work in terms of science, more work on the ecosystem service evaluation. We still need information on the biodiversity. We need the knowledge of the function. What is the ecosystem function? What is the ecosystem service to the human well-being? How much the human get the service from the marine and coastal resources, and also what is the pressure to the marine and coastal resources. So we need the science, the working group, working between the naturalists and also the economists and the manager working together with many kind of tools and techniques to working together in terms of what is the best option for the marine spatial planning. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sakana.
Yep.
Thank you. And the next speaker is from Arya Dama. Arya Dama is a director at the Center for Coastal Science, Coastal and Marine Resources Studies, Bono Agricultural University, Indonesia. Also, he is an associate professor in coastal ecology at the Faculty of Fishery and Marine Science, Bono Agricultural University. So, Professor Arya, it's yours, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Zhang. So is my presentation seen in the screen? I think so, yeah. Okay, good morning, everyone. So it is very glad to be here again. And thank you so much for the organizer for inviting me to share on Indonesian marine and coastal spatial planning in the overview of as taken as an opportunity and challenges. And I would like to share about what is the spatial planning has been implemented in Indonesia and how it works and how the challenge that can be also facing by the as the organizing of this marine spatial planning in Indonesia. So that was my outline of presentation, and we would like to share why we need this marine spatial planning. And it is also revealed that actually marine spatial planning is a part of integrated coastal management as an approach. And then I would like to share with all of you also about the regulation related to the marine spatial planning. It is very important, the regulation, because without this regulation in place, then we can implement the marine spatial planning, both as a planning document and as a implementation measure and instrument. And then the challenges and opportunities of the implementation of marine spatial planning in Indonesia. So why we need this marine spatial planning? Because Indonesia is an archipelagic country. So our country areas is, I think 60% more is in the seawater. And we are located right exactly under the equatorial line. So we are located in the tropical area, and by having the area in the tropical area, so we have a very high in biodiversity. And also we have a challenge because at the same time we have a quite rapid population development. And also the fact that 60% of our population is living in the coastal area, which is about 150 million people. And we have about 3 million square kilometers of territorial marine waters, and also another 2.7 million square kilometer waters in the EEZ zone. And then this rapid development of economic and also population, so this threats the coastal and marine ecosystem and also resources. And mainly we focus on coral reef, mangroves, and seagrass beds. So then, in fact, we know that this coral reef, mangroves, and seagull spread has high values of ecosystem services that are very beneficial for the living of human living in that area. And it is also the reason why we need this marine spatial planning, because we have a quite rapid degradation of those coastal and marine ecosystems, such as mangroves, seagrass, coral reefs, not only in terms of area, but also in terms of quality. So that another threats also we are facing with, such as a coastal abrasion, coastal pollution, and then the benthic habitat degradation and some over exploitation of fisheries resources and some other ecosystem degradation. So then that's why we need an integrated coastal management as an approach to deal with this such degraded coastal ecosystem. So by definition, ICM is an approach for management of multi-resources and multi-sectors in a coastal area. So then it is defined as natural resources and environmental management framework, which employs an integrative, holistic approach and an interactive policy making and planning and implementation process in addressing the complex management issues in a coastal area. So this definition has keywords, and one of those keywords is planning. So that's why marine spatial planning is a fundamental step in coastal integrated coastal management. So in the framework of ICM diagram fluid, we have coastal marine spatial planning in the beginning of the process. So it is also revealed that it is very important to have a good planning beforehand. So marine spatial planning is part of this planning. So these are the process of ICM as being published by Chua Tia Eng and Pamsi in 2017. Now we come into the marine spatial planning or marine zoning plan. So the marine zoning plan or marine spatial planning is a part of management planning. And by having this planning, we been able then enabling us to plan the utilization of natural resources in terms of a spatial manner. And then this spatial planning actually not only purely 100% spatial pattern, but it is also in terms of structure planning. So it is consists of a load and node load activities in one particular area in Indonesia. And this marine spatial planning, it is used as a basis for a permit issuance for any of activities that will be placed in one area in one province. What is the regulation in Indonesia about marine spatial planning? First, for the whole area of national marine waters, we have a law number 32, 2014, is about maritime, especially the article number 43 is about marine area planning. And in this law, it is mentioned that in principle, we have national marine spatial planning, and then we have a provincial marine spatial planning. So the national marine spatial planning is under the central government jurisdiction, and the provincial marine spatial planning is under the provincial government. So the law for provincial marine spatial planning is law number 23, 2014. So the national marine spatial planning consists of 4 marine national spatial planning, which are the National Marine Spatial Plan, and then the inter-area marine zoning plan, the national strategic marine zoning plan, and then the national specific zoning of strategic area. So those marine spatial planning are located outside the 12 nautical mile from the coastline. So below 12 nautical miles from the coastline belongs to the provincial government. And those belongs to the provincial government are regulated in the law number 27, 2007. It is about management of coastal and small islands area. And the marine spatial planning for the provincial government level is called Marine Coastal and Small Islands Zoning Plan. And this Marine Coastal and Small Islands Zoning Plan is based on provincial government area. In Indonesia, as information, we have 34 provinces, meaning that we will be having 34 marine spatial planning for provincial government area. And then so far, we have 27 already provinces that has already adopting this marine spatial planning. So we need to go more 7 more provinces to have this provincial marine coastal small island zoning plan being adopted. So those are the articles that regulating such more detail about this provincial marine spatial planning. For example, it's about how the local government has an obligation to develop its own marine spatial planning. And then this MSP should be legally adopted as local regulation. So unless it is legally adopted, and then this marine spatial planning document cannot be implemented. And then the MSP is used as a base for any of activity permits. And then the permits will be issued based on the adopted MSP. And then the law number 23, 2014, stating that the smallest unit of governance is provincial government for issuing this marine spatial planning, which is below 12 nautical mile from the shoreline. So this is some general figure. This is a western part of Indonesia. So we have another eastern part of Indonesia consisted of 3 more bigger islands, but this is only some general figure about the western area. So for example, this is the province of West Kalimantan, and it has 12 nautical miles from the shoreline area, and it is regulated by the provincial MSP. They call it the Coastal and Small Island Zoning Plan. And this is the province of West Java, Central Java, and East Java. So this is the line of 12 nautical miles from the coastline. So outside these lines, it is belong to the national government. So the national government is doing the national marine spatial planning, which consists of 3 national marine spatial planning, depend on the specific activities in the area. So that's the structure. So this is the cross section of the image of a province. For example, this is a continental shelf, and then this is the pelagic environment. And then we have the high tide, we have low tide, and then the high tide is used as the limit for coastal and marine spatial planning, so marine area actually. And then it goes to 12 nautical mile, and then this 12 nautical mile is belong to the provincial government. So the marine spatial planning on this area is under the provincial government marine spatial planning. And then outside the 12 nautical mile, it belongs to the national government, and the MSP is national MSP. And then we have also the land spatial planning or terrestrial based spatial planning. So this is under another law, another regulation, which is law number 26, 2007. So we have the land-based spatial planning and then the marine-based spatial planning. And then it is actually our challenge to integrate between the land spatial planning and marine spatial planning, because it has been it used separately developed. So now under our new law, then it is an obligatory to combine those process in one process, but the output is still to marine spatial planning and also land spatial planning. So the integration between land and marine spatial planning is very important. Otherwise, the allocation of activities in the land is not fit to what have been allocated in the marine spatial area. For example, the industrial area allocated in the land, it should be not directly facing the, for example, the coral reef area or tourism area, something like that. And this is the process, the steps of making the provincial marine spatial planning. Actually, it's a long process. It takes quite times. It's about years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to complete this process, because it is involving local community, it is involving private sectors, it is involving also local government, of course, and in some area we have a traditional knowledge, and we have also traditional spatial planning already, and so on and so on. And then the final will be then adopted by House of Representatives in each province, and then adopted as local regulation. So without having adopted, then this spatial planning document cannot be implemented. So as always, the marine spatial planning consisted of 2 spatial structure and spatial pattern. And then the spatial structure and spatial pattern is basically divided into the two function, the protected area pattern, and then the utilization area pattern. So first,
one minute left. Yeah, sorry. 1 minute left. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, more slide only. So during the process, it is involving also some factors, and this involvement is very important, because without involvement all parties, then it is the output, the document is not as good as we expected in the beginning. And the legal mechanism is also very important, because if not legally adopted, then the document cannot be implemented. So this is one example. I'm sorry, the graph is not so good. And this is a province of East Java, for example. This is the area and allocation area for fishing, for industries, for pipeline, for sea route transportation, for sea mining, and so on and so on. And the challenge is, of course, first is about integrating between land and marine spatial planning, and then transboundary with neighboring countries. It is very important, because we have neighboring countries, and the neighboring countries is also having some activities, and then some changing in the law related to government management. This is also still our main challenge. And then, yeah, I think that's all. Thank you so much for this sharing.
Hey, thank you, Professor. I will give us a very detailed introduction about the MLT work in Indonesia. Okay, our next speaker is from Papua New Guinea, Professor Chalapan. But before the conference, Professor Chalapan gave me a call for he can't join some emergency private insurance. He feels very sorry about that. But he said he understands. Accelerate the more spatial planning in WESTPAC because he can't join us today. So our next speaker is from Korea. It's Professor Sora Yun. Sora Yun is a senior researcher, marine spatial environmental policy research section in Korea Institute of Ocean Science and Technology. Her research interest includes marine environmental law and policy, marine biodiversity policy, biodiversity related MES. So Professor Yun. Perfectly in place, and please control your time. It's just 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Can you? Sorry. Can you see my presentation?
It's available.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for organizing this event and giving me this opportunity. Today I will introduce marine spatial planning initiative in South Korea. Especially I will explain the main structure and the key elements and then one example of a marine spatial management plan formulated by Busan province. And I will also talk about the challenges we are facing nowadays and how we are trying to resolve by improving legal aspect on MSP. In Korea, we established and operated a marine MSP task force in 2016 and started a pilot project in Gyeonggi province in 2017 while preparing the legislation on MSP. The MSP Act was enacted in 2018 and it was enforced from 2019. Aside from the MSP Act, we also prepared 5 guidelines and it was enacted in 2019. And a specialized institution was designated in 2019 as well to comprehensively manage marine spatial data and evaluate MSP in 2019. In 2020, the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries established marine spatial base plan. And based on this base plan and the guidelines, Busan province firstly formulated the marine spatial management plan at the provincial level. In 2021, Incheon and Gyeonggi province finished formulating their marine spatial management plan and notified it to the public, while other 5 provinces are finished formulating their marine spatial management plan, and they are planning to notify it to the public within this year or at the beginning of next year. When it comes to the EEG, the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries finished formulating the marine spatial management plan, and they are in the process of consultation with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In the past, we used to use the concept ICGM for marine spatial management. The ICGM covered territorial waters only, while MSP covers territorial waters, EEZ, and the continental shelf. In addition, the ICGM designated marine use areas based on current activities in accordance with the relevant different individual laws, while the MSP considers core value and the potential value of the sea area by conducting marine spatial characteristic assessment to predetermine the 9 kinds of marine uses. Here, the thing I wanted to point out is we have a marine spatial suitability consultation process as one of the effective means. Any activity in the marine space or any plan to use and develop the marine space should be consulted with the Ministry of Oceans and Fishery and need to get approval in advance. As a core system of MSP in Korea, I want to explain 3 elements. First of all, we designated 9 kinds of marine use zones in consideration of the result of the evaluation of marine spatial characteristics. Second, as I mentioned, as I emphasized at the previous slide, any activity in the marine space and any plan to use and develop the marine space should be consulted with the Ministry of Oceans and Fishery in advance through the marine spatial suitability consultation process. Lastly, we consider collection and management of marine spatial data very, very important. We are trying to manage it comprehensively and appropriately and should make a policy decision on MSP by utilizing this data and information. Specifically, when it comes to the information management, the database is not only used for integrated marine space management, but also it plays a role as an ocean and fishery big data platform. Ultimately, we are planning to enhance the AI-based analysis platform. Here, I will show you the example of a marine spatial management plan established by Busan province. When formulating the plan and designating 9 marine uses, it should be in accordance with the basic plan and the guidelines established by the Ministry of Oceans and Fishery, and should consider the spatial structure of the sea area and functional allocation. In Busan's case, as you can see at the slide, energy development zone and aggregate and mineral resources development zone were not designated. Meanwhile, fishery activity protection zones and military action zones occupied the large proportion of the marine space in Busan. Specifically, regarding the fishery activity protection area, this area, in accordance with the law, this area is defined as a zone necessary for the protection and the promotion of fishery activities and the further sustainable production of fishery products. The reason why we are trying to manage this area is to secure fishery resources and protect spawning and rearing habitats in order to promote the regional economic profits. When we designated this area, the protected area designated by different other laws, coastal and inshore fishery catch, fishing vessel density, and other data, including the data you can see at the slide, should be comprehensively considered. Lastly, I will talk about some challenges that we are facing nowadays while formulating and operating the MSP in Korea, MSP policy in Korea. Currently, we are conducting some studies to suggest the improvement and amendment of the legislation and policy. First of all, we don't have a conflict resolving mechanism within current system on MSP. So nowadays we are trying to establish our MSP committee to adjust the conflict. Second, there are some areas where the future demand has not been determined yet. So for this area, we are considering designating it as the preliminary area. Third, there are also some areas where there are different interests and conflicts are severe. So for this area, we are considering designating it as the reserved area. Lastly, since there are some provisions which have weak obligations, so we are trying to supplement it by developing mandatory provisions in order to strengthen the implementation management on MSP. That's all I prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yun. So as our schedule, next speaker is from the Zheng Guo. He is an assistant professor in First Institute of Oceanographic. He has engaged in the ecosystem partners and the process in coastal and island system for a long time. And he also over a number of national research projects, including the National Nature Science Foundation of China, Special Funds for Research.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, Professor Zhiwei and all the audience. So I'm Guo Zhen and come from the First Institute of Oceanography of China. So it's a great honor for me to participate in this Incubator meeting to introduce and share what we have done in China in terms of MSP. Okay. Well, we all know that our ocean provides us with different kinds of goals, resources, and services. So these pictures released by the IOS UNESCO show that due to the increasing demands of food, energy, tourism, and transport, and so on. So our ocean is facing an unprecedented challenge. So how to find a balance between the marine ecosystem conservation and the utilization already become a tough issue for all the—
Excuse me, Mr. Chen, could you please kindly check your screen because your PowerPoint come only half.
Sorry?
Your screen sharing, it doesn't show properly. It's only show part of your PowerPoint. Can you please check the image?
Professor Guo, you
Okay.
come to my office.
Once you open your PowerPoint, you can click for full screen at the bottom right, and then it should show.
Okay, Professor Guo, you stop your. Okay, sorry. Okay, fortunately, we have MSP. So it's a comprehensive framework and tools that can provide us with concept to treat our ocean as a holistic system and provide us with a serious method to identify the key factors and get us to develop a sound plan. Okay, let's talk about China. China is a country with large sea areas. China also has more than 18,000 kilometers coastline, and there's more than 7,000 islands. So these abundant marine spatial resources made great contributions to China economy. However, due to the disordered human activities, so the marine ecosystem was on the verge of unsustainable situation. After realizing this, the Chinese scholars and the government began to attach great attention to marine conservation, and thus become one of the first countries in the world to implement MSP.
Oh, thank you very much.
In China, the MSP mainly refers to the marine functional zoning, that is MFZ. So the concept of MSC was first proposed in 1978. So it's a kind of methodology that divided the sea area into different types of functional zoning based on the location, the nature feature, resources, current situation, and the demand of social economy development. So MFC is not just an optional system. Now,
sir.
China, sorry, you maybe some bad connection. I will reconnect this. Sorry. It works now. The presentation. Sorry, no, it doesn't work. 还是不行吧？现在呢 ？Okay, it works now. Okay, sorry.
这个点一下下边 full screen 最下角这个，这个对，这个点一下。Okay, good.
Okay, so now MFC has become one of the three major systems for the marine management in China. So far, the MFC has experienced three rounds of revisions. The first round of MFC was from 1989 to 1990s. So we call this round as a large-scale MFC because the analyzed grid is relatively bigger. But as a pioneer project, it laid a foundation for the next round of MFC. So this is the second round of MFC. So in this round, the analyst grid became smaller and more refined. So in the third round of MFC, it's from 2011 to 2020. So in this round, most of municipal and county MFCs have been completed. So far, the MFC become an important approach to coordinate sea use activity among different sectors. So this is a hierarchy system. So different levels tackle different issues. So from national to county levels, the range, the objectives and the measures become more specific. Here is After 3 decades development, the classification system of MFC has been further improved. In the latest version, so the C area was divided into 8 first-tier zones and 22 subzones according to different spatial function. So here is the process of MFC, which include the established working group, information collection, analyzing, zoning, consultation, monitoring, and so on. So compare with the red column, you can see it's quite similar to the UNESCO's step-by-step approach. Okay, so this is an example of the China's national marine functional zoning. So we divided the China's sea area into 29 key sea areas. So based on the natural features and the developed status. So not only we draw the boundaries, but also we have to clear the main objectives, such like the total area of the marine protected zone have to reach more than 5% of jurisdiction of the sea area in China. And the retention rate of nature coastline should be less than 35% and so on. So this is an example of provincial MFC. And this is a municipal level MFC. So until now, so a total number of more than 300 municipal MFC have been accomplished. Okay, finally, I want to talk about a little bit the national spatial planning, because before the 2018, there are several departments that involved the sea and coastal area management. So different departments release different standard and planning, which lead to the overlapping of management and conflicts. So sometimes the boundaries of MFC a little bit hard to mapping. So in 2018, so the MNR means the Ministry of Natural Resources was established to manage the natural resources based on the ecosystem, and we propose the concept of national spatial planning. So basically, the national spatial planning is to mapping to plan our sea area on this one map. Okay. Also, we see the land and the ocean as a whole. So under this framework, we classified the area into living, production, and ecological zones. So when we drop the ecological red lines, all the high intensive human activities will be prohibited. So in terms of ocean, only 2 plans left in marine sectors. That is marine spatial planning and the coastal zone planning. So here is an example due to the time is limited. And also the Professor Zhi talk about what we have done in Guangxi province. So I'm going to quick through this. This is we target the issues and collect all the information and do some analysis. Finally, we got the different layer of our evaluation. Finally, we got the final zoning plan. Not we draw the boundary, we also have to put forward some suggestion to the government and to the different kind of stakeholders. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Professor Guo. And I saw a lot of problem because of the bad internet, but I just think it's very similar if the internet quality is different. Just like the more spatial planning technology or the capacity is different. It's hard to push forward the more spatial planning to accelerate the more spatial planning in this region. So that's also what we think we need to solve this such problem and to accelerate this problem. I'm sorry for the time delay because I didn't complete the well. And the next, we have, I think, 15 minutes for the panel discussion, accelerate more spatial planning in West Pacific and its adjacent areas. Okay, here I have a very briefly proposal for this part, and I will say it. So, can you see this presentation? Yes.
Full screen, please.
For this, okay, yeah, it's full screen now. For accelerate more spatial planning in adjacent area, I made a proposal for joint route map to this work, because from the even in this area, we have very similar culture, similar development level, and similar ecosystem problem or the economic development program. But I think it's also totally different in different countries in this area to put forward this work. Accelerated, I think, firstly, maybe we need to establish an expert group to under the WESTPAC consulting of WESTPAC from this area in order to coordinate and integrate MSP resources and knowledge and implement the process of MSP in the region. Just like what I said as a joke, if the internet quality is different, we are hired to put forward this conference is similar. And the second thing I think we need to do is for capacity building. In Professor Sakana's presentation, he also said lots of for this issues. Here, the capacity building, I think it should be the MSP guide and pilot projects developed regional MSP guide based on MSP Global International MSP guide that is fit for the characters of this area and apply the guideline in the process of MSP system construction to verify the robustness of the guide so as to make adjustment timely and do some pilot projects. And the third thing I think is MIT study of MIT research on the framework of large marine ecosystem. Now in this region, we have two or three large marine ecosystems such as Big Yellow Sea and South China Sea and Big Gulf and Thailand Gulf. So in this value, in this micro value, how to put forward this problem, also we need to think about. And the next thing we need to do is blue economy. Yeah, MSP is underpays blue economy investment in ocean-based business comes less risk with proper spatial planning. So take opportunity to expand the investment and trade off for countries in the region to release industries linkage, resources sharing, and win-win results. This will be a good result for this work. And the next one is communication. I think we need to build a regional platform for communication to share each other's experience through exchange of values and practice, and for technical training to strengthen capacity building.
Excuse me, Dr. Shiwei. I didn't see your screen. I think, did you share your screen?
Yeah, I said the presentation slide now.
I cannot. We cannot see your screen. Great.
I'm sorry. How about now?
No.
No.
Mm.
Sorry for bad night. How about now?
Okay. Mm.
I mean, yes.
Yeah, first one is expert group, and the second is capacity building for MSP guide and the pilot project. And the third is MSP research on the framework of large marine ecosystem. And the fourth work we need to do is blue economic, MSP to put forward blue economic, and to and last one is communication. Yeah, this is my proposal. Okay, if you have some suggestions, welcome to give up some comments or suggestions. Thank you. So, hi, Manakat.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I am Vanake from DMCR Thailand. That for the presentation of the many countries, I observed that for China and Indonesia is more advanced in the scientific aspect and also the legal aspect. But as the Dr. Chang said that the emphasis on the science-based, but for Thailand we have some constraint because science-based is one of the evidence for the stakeholder participation process only, because we need to emphasize on the stakeholders participation, and we need also how to link between the science-based information and the social aspect, and also we have also some constraint in law and regulation amendment, and for the MSP global guideline that said that the framework of the MSP is composed of the ecological, economics, and social, and then can proceed to through the political process. But I have some comment. We should add more process on the stakeholder participation. Yes, this is 2 points. This I would like to comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vanakat. Yeah, I think it's very important comments. Yeah, different countries, the level for the marine spatial planning is different. But the background is also different. For different countries, they have different policy, different laws, and different regulations. That is very high for another country to guide that. It's through we can exchange the experience or lessons, but we can co-design some science support that. That's also what I think is need to do. Okay, Mr. Zhu, please. I notice. See you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think for our conveners and all speakers in sharing your MSP practice either at the site level, national level, or with a different focus either on policy or local practice. I think everything is very wonderful because the MSP is a really kind of a practice, as I said, and also very much closely related to what kind of social, economic, ecological condition we are based in. So either top-down approach or bottom approach, I think both approach make a great sense in our region, because a different region, a different country in a different region has a different social, economic, and ecological context. So I think, in terms of Thailand, very much emphasize on set level practice is a practical way. Such a case in Indonesia and China very much emphasize on the top-down approach, put priority on policy law as a priority force. But of course, science go hands by hands with the policy. This is also another practical way. So the issue is question how to move forward. I think today the 2 hour indeed is very tight, but also it's very inspiring, for us, how we are going to move forward over the next 10 years, particularly in the context of UN Decade of Ocean Science. That's something I think we need to find a way. That's what I said. The IOC published the step-by-step practice in 2005, actually taking a lot of practice as a model in that book, particularly in the Xiamen demonstration site, because at that time I was also in charge of that issues. But now 10 years, more than 10 years, IOC come up with the MSP global guideline again. 10 years already. But in China, it's more than 30, 40 years old. I think in other countries, also 20, 30 years practice already. So what are we going to do next 10 years, right? So in that sense, I think it's quite urgent and also essential for us to come up with a more sustainable mechanism, accelerating or driving the MSP development in the region. I think all of you are certainly are MSP practitioner, right? I use the name practitioner. So you care about, you have been working on MSP. In the past, most MSP are very much project-based, donor-driven approach, right? So I would ask you to pay attention, what kind of mechanism we can establish, particularly with the opportunity provided by the UN Decade of Ocean Science, to set up more sustainable mechanism, driving the MSP for the next 10 years. So in that sense, I think this is a very important, question that all the group should come up, with a solution. So this is something, with that, I would like to thank the convener very much for your, tremendous efforts in making this incubator possible, and also come up with some preliminary thoughts that are going to drive the future of MSP in this region. So I think, it's from the IOC's, UNESCO point of view, the IOC take a lead in publishing the step-by-step guideline in 2005, and recently, together with the European Union, published the MSP global guideline. So it's time for us, thinking about how to adapt. I don't use implement. I use the words of adapt, because I say SME really linked to the specific socio-economic, context we are in, right? So how we are better adapt that global guideline to our country, even to our size in this region. Now, what kind of mechanism can ensure the SMP development in the near future? So this is perspective, I think, from IOC, UNESCO, and also IOC WESTPAC as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zhu. Yes, you gave us a very important suggestion. It's first the problem we need to solve maybe the material, how to establish a material in this region and to put forward these things. In fact, not all. In fact, in this region, lots of countries, lots of international organizations, they did some work here and how to hide or connect this work together and make it very important and very can solve lots of things work. It make it can be a part of MSP roadmap for the global and to contribute for that. It's what we should think about the first thing. And another thing, just like you said, how to adapt it the international guideline to local. That's just like the global meets the local and how to connect to that. Yeah, we will also think about this thing. Yes, okay. Thank you again. Okay, any comments or suggestions? So, Professor Ariel, do you have more comments?
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Sang and Professor Zhu. And I would like to make some few that some clarification of course that it was mentioned by Professor Zhu that in Indonesia is more top to bottom approach, but actually in Indonesia we have a combination between bottom up and from top to bottom. Of course, the government initiate the process by providing some regulation and also some guideline, but the process of development of the document of MSP itself, it's really involving all stakeholders from the provincial area that are working with. So that's why the process of development of one document of MSP is taking so much time. It's more than sometimes 5 years. It's not finished because it is not straight away finish one process document. So it's being revised again and again and again until all sectors are happy with the final documents. And also about the future plan of this incubator, I think we have to do some forum. We have to develop some forum. So this is already available actually. Then we could continue by this forum to enhance, for example, we do some capacity building. Of course, we have different characters of each country in this area. Like Indonesia, maybe we are archipelagic country, so we more or less similar to the Philippines, for example. But continental countries or states like Vietnam, China, and most of the South Asian countries are continental seas area, like Thailand as well. So then by having those two different basic typical of the area, then we could then make another grouping of the process, because in some extents the process quite be very different. I think that's Professor Chang.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Thank you. And okay, Mr. Zhu, please.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you, Professor Ariel from Indonesia. I think for ISP really, it's kind of a one size never fit all, right? One size never fit all. The different country, different socioeconomic, ecological condition. So that's make point that we must have a group of MSP practitioner from different side, different country, to share their idea, to share experience, to share their lessons, and then to avoid, to get a group practice, and also to avoid wasting time in some area by learning lessons from others. I think whatever top-down or bottom up. They have lessons. They have also good practice. So we need that kind of a mechanism actually for the region. And also recently, I think in the WESTPAC intergovernmental session, many countries, are express strong interest or hope for, WESTPAC to have some kind of mechanism to support SMSP development in the region. So this is something from our country, member states. They make the strong support, for WESTPAC, to have some kind of mechanism to support our, the science and serve the needs for governance, serve the needs of local community needs. So in that sense, if you don't mind, I think, we can, building on the achievement today, set up some working group or task force on MSP, and then start to consider what kind of regular activity we can conduct over the next 10 years. For instance, as Professor Ariel mentioned, like the forum, right? So we have that kind of regular ocean science conference and also WESTPAC Ocean Science Conference once every 3 years, and hosted by country on a rotational basis. So every time we can have MSP session, or even between the conference, we can have more forum. And then with the capacity building, with the other issues, like the twinning arrangement among the sites. So I think with this kind of a very multiple arrangements, flexible arrangement, I think MSP, in the future could be further enhanced, as I said, accelerated, for our country and also for our province and the community. So this was the regular mechanism is very important because we can sustain the learning, the mutual learning, and also sharing, and also the co-development approach. Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zhu. And the last is our closing remarks. We need to finish this time very limited. And last, I want to invite Dr. Xin Chunpan, the Secretary General of China Oceanic Development Foundation, give us closing remarks. Okay, please.
没有声音，没有声音，
没有声音。Sorry. One second. Sorry.
尊敬的各位领导、专家学者、女士们、先生们，大家好，我是中国海洋发展基金会副理事长兼秘书长、海洋空间规划研究院院长潘新春，很高兴以视频方式与大家交流。首先，向西太地区启动联合国海洋10年大会、海洋空间规划峰会的认真召开表示热烈的祝贺。海洋空间规划作为海洋治理的基础和海洋保护、开发、利用、修复等的工具得到普遍正视和广泛应用。中国从1970年代开始探索、研究、实践海洋功能区划即海洋空间规划。2001年将海洋功能区划纳入海域使用法，成为法律制度。2010至2020年版中国全国海洋功能区划和11个沿海省市海洋功能区划，把中国晚狭海域空间划分为一类功能区1931个，二类功能区约4万多个。根据海洋功能区划，建立海洋保护区、海洋公园、海洋牧场示范区和划定海洋生态红线区、海洋渔业商场，包括长廊场、索尔场、跃登场、一通道、洄游通道等，使海域保护面积达到管辖海域面积的10%左右。中国海洋空间规划推动了中国海洋生态保护 和蓝色经济发展，新一轮海洋功能区划正按照生态优先、保护优先、绿色利润、可持续发展的理念编制。中国海洋发展基金会是致力于凝聚中外资源，组织国际力量，积极开展包括研究推行海洋空间规划在内的海洋综合治理、海洋生态保护、蓝色经济发展、科技创新应用等的 NGO。 海洋基金会为了助推共建“一带一路”，设立了推行海洋空间规划、助力蓝色经济发展海上丝路项目，以帮助海上丝路国家保护海洋生态环境，发展蓝色经济。海上丝路项目是以编制海洋空间规划为引领，开展包括海洋治理、空间规划、蓝色经济、海洋保护、海洋科技、海平面监测、渔业养殖基础设施、城镇建设、海洋文化、人才培养、招商引资等方面的合作。海上丝路项目从2018年推出后，受到海上丝路国家的热烈欢迎，先后有几十个国家提出申请。到目前为止，海洋基金会已与18个海上丝路国家签署了海上丝路项目双边合作协议。海上丝路项目由海洋基金会出资与支持、协调与领导，由海洋基金会海洋空间规划研究院具体实施。现已完成大多数国家的资料收集工作和1/3国家的海洋空间规划编制初稿，举办了数10期海上丝路国家海洋管理培训班，邀请中国数百家企业对实施海上丝路项目的18个国家开展了投资分析，很多企业有投资意向。海上丝路项目正在按计划推进，不断取得新进展。在中国自然资源部、国家海洋局、外交部、国家发展和改革委员会等部门的指导下，海上丝路项目将与中国政府签署共建“一带一路”合作文件的172个国家中的海上丝路国家的内容与要求相对接，与海上丝路国家的公路、铁路、桥梁、港口、机场、电站、通讯、环保等基础设施相吻合，与海上丝路国家的产业链、供应链、资金链等领域相连通，与海上丝路国家的意识形态、社会制度、宗教信仰、文化习俗等相包容。通过双方共同努力，让海上丝路项目在海上丝路国家落地生根开发结果，造福大众百姓，促进经济发展，实现合作共赢。最后，祝西太地区启动海洋10年大会海洋空间规划峰会圆满成功。谢谢。
Okay, thanks everybody for attending this conference, and thanks again for this the organizer, and hope we can work together to accelerate the MSP in this region. And thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, bye.
Bye bye.
Good.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, bye, Professor. I will see you.